of healthy beauty. Trends in 2017. Welcome to the future of healthy beauty. And today, in today's episode, Luke and I are going to be discussing the future of healthy beauty and trends for 2017, inspired by a roundtable event held by the Diversified Communications Group and the Natural Beauty News that we recently attended.
Yeah, we were very lucky to be invited to a round table discussion.
It was actually a rectangle table, just...
That's true. And it was also an opportunity to get presented with some awards, of which we came number 3 in their Who's Who of Natural Beauty, which was very exciting. But there were some other hugely influential people there, a few that I personally fell in love with, who we'll come to later. They were really inspiring, really interesting to listen to. We started off thinking that we wouldn't have a lot to say, and 3 hours later... I put the world to
You went
rights.
into a room thinking that you weren't going to have a lot to say.
Well,
You were the only boy in the room.
That's true.
No, that's not true, apart from Dom, who was organising it.
Yeah, I thought maybe I wouldn't want to say too much for fear of overpowering the room.
Okay, so to be clear, the Diversified Communications Group are a very large group that own a lot of magazine publications and trade shows. But one of theirs is Natural Beauty News, and they run a yearly award system, which is recently going under some change. So it might be more than once a year, but they crown the coveted top 25 most influential people in the natural beauty world. And so there is an awards ceremony. This year, Jane Sirland, the MD of Veleda UK, came first, and Luke and I got a bronze podium finish.
But Jane's was well deserved. She works for Veleda, and they are one of the leading lights in natural skincare, certified by Natru. They're a German company. They are 100 years old, I think.
Near on. Alongside Dr. Hauschka, they are the originals. So the original inspiration for the birth, really, of the natural and organic world. And Luke and I were very chuffed to get our badge. This was the first time that Luke tagged on to my entry. I'd just like to point out that in 2015, I won on my own.
That's true, but the competition wasn't as stiff. Things have moved on.
True, the competition was fairly ferocious this year. But then what happens alongside the awards is that having a lot of key natural and organic industry players in the room, they host a discussion. And there were 3 key points and trends that we had been sent very briefly beforehand, but it becomes an open forum. Each point is announced, it gets discussed, and it is truly interesting what goes down at that table. Because as I say, you have heads of major brands, major third-party websites, shop key distributors.
The head buyer for Holland & Barrett, who are very strong in the natural organic market. Really interesting people and really productive meetings. I mean, you sometimes think, we just, like the sound of our own voices, but absolutely not. It was really, really useful, and everyone had a lot of interesting things to say. And as Kirsty said, we started in one direction and may have ended up somewhere else, but we learned a lot on the way. So what was the first topic we talked about?
Waterless beauty.
Which we had some debate in the car on the way out there, whether they were discussing not using water with your product, or whether it was less water in the product.
Yes.
Because obviously it stems from the realization that there's a growing concern about the amount of water in the world and how we should use it. And I, for one, am all about sustainability, and we'll talk about that later. So for me, there's an element of how much water you use in your regime. Just like leaving the tap running when you're cleaning your teeth, I think people should be conscious of the same thing when they're washing their face.
And so there have been an increasing amount of beauty products over the last few years that actually take water away entirely. Face wipes being the first and most obvious answer. And every therapist you would ever speak to or listening to this is cowering and putting their hands over their eyes, because as therapists, we really don't like their effect on skin. That is one route. dry shampoos, face wipes. However, obviously within their production, they still require water and they still have water within them. So actually the debate was more about formulating an individual product and how you could use less water within that.
And the opportunity for natural and organic, who often don't have water in their products, because if you have water, you need preservatives, and they're obviously are often the harsh, irritating things that you don't want in a product. So we all started by discussing how big an opportunity it might be for those of us that already have products with very little water, because they're either balm based or we've got emulsions with very little water. You know, how we can take advantage of people that are looking for such products.
Yeah, I mean, as Pink's Boutique, we'd be onto an absolute winner. There are very few brands that have as many balms as we do, and that balm texture is achieved by having absolutely no water in that bottle. You have 100% either plant-based butters, oils, vegetable waxes, nada, no aqua whatsoever. Whereas when you look at an INCI list, that's in the ingredient list on a bottle, nearly 99% of the time, the first ingredient you will see is aqua, and whatever is first, there is most of in a bottle. It's the most obvious cheap bulk of filler that the beauty industry has always used. So balms are completely waterless, and we have lots of them. However, there is the kind of question of, brilliant, we could use that as a marketing spiel, but what about actually producing the ingredients that go in those balms?
And this is one of the areas we started to digress into, and Jane Steelan from Wylida was very interesting because one of their core principles is sustainability. So one of the things they try and achieve is higher than 80% of their ingredients being natural. But also about how sustainable those ingredients are and how they can keep producing them. And as Kirsty says, you know, some of those rich butters and created from nuts, you know, there is quite a water-intensive agriculture behind them. So we're being quite honest, and that's a good thing about these roundtable discussions, and it fits very nicely with Kirsty and I, is that people are very honest about the limitations of natural and organic, but also about the massive opportunities.
There's no getting away from it. If you have a jojoba crop growing, which we use in all of our balms, it needs water. It
does, but then at the other end, you need less of that product to achieve the same results. So, you know, you've got a more intense, less...
So what we were trying to work out is this fashion actually even going to go into the mainstream? Are we early on talking about it, and by the end of this year we'll all be laughing and saying, oh my god, waterless beauty is the biggest thing ever?
Wasn't it great that we didn't have water in our products, which we didn't anyway?
Or will it be a flash in a toilet pan, excuse the pun, and just not occur at all? Or is it really a badge that is just another kind of greenwashing concept of, great, you have less water within a formulation, but how can you ever get the detail from the person that made it on exactly how much water irrigated every element of the land or the process that it took to grow those ingredients and then get them into a bottle?
I mean, we'd definitely like to hear from you guys about this in terms of whether it's something that resonates with you, whether waterless is something you'd look for, whether as a potential buyer of natural organic skincare, that's something that appeals to you, or like I said, whether it is just a short blip. I mean, the exciting thing is that we discussed about a lot of these topics is there's a lot of great products in natural and organic beauty that can be repurposed. I mean, for this, you know, in reality, to take advantage of these trends, because they do exist, and as a business we need to appeal to whatever the current trend is. Like repurposing products, we have a great range of cleansing balms. And if, you know, one of the reasons people are interested in them is because they're waterless, that's great.
I actually read really recently the Mintel report for 2025, the beauty industry.
Did you travel forward in time?
Yeah.
Okay, clever.
And one of the key aspects in there is also waterless beauty, that they think it is going to be huge based on the fact that there is huge data occurring, saying that by 2025 there are going to be serious water shortages in quite a few parts of the world, and also that there is going to be a fashion for having water within your product which is super exclusive water, like a special blue lagoon drop from the top of a
which to me
west
is
corner Himalayan mountain.
Which to me is completely contradictory.
Yeah.
If the concept came about because we were worried about the amount of water, going around stealing water from some of the most precious sources in the world seems to be contradictory.
I have to say, that was my instant reaction to the sacred water concept.
I mean, it's not something that I think we'd go in for as a brand, because I'm at the core concerned about sustainability and the thought of going fishing.
Well, the other core is that we're truthful.
That is also part of what we do.
Slightly problematic sometimes, in that we can list, I mean, how many completely waterless products do we have? 3 cleansing balms, a night balm, rose balm, hand balm, foot balm, 4 body balms,
bamboo scrub,
rosehip scrub. I mean, we have got 15 straight up products that don't have a drop of water in them. But truthfully, they all required water to grow those ingredients.
So as Kirsty was saying, there are 15 products in our range that could be touted as waterless beauty. And it is a really interesting ethical point as to whether we should, and our marketing team should, go around touting something, because we didn't develop that product for that sole purpose. And there are elements of water used in the production of it and in the use of it.
Yeah.
It is very hard, as Kirsty said, to justify a product by saying it's waterless, because somewhere along the line water will have been used.
And you use water to wash some of them off.
Absolutely. Although we do prescribe using muslin cloth, natural, organic, certified muslin cloth, which does reduce vastly the amount of water used.
I do think there could be a really interesting education piece for getting, a bit like they did with washing your teeth, turning the taps off.
I totally
about
agree.
how you physically need to reduce the amount of water coming out of a tap or a shower when you are washing or going through your beauty regime.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, lots of what we talk about is being honest and looking at a different way of seeing things. And I think waterless beauty should be more about the water you use when you're applying and washing off your products. Just, it instinctively feels like there's more water to be saved there than the 40 mils of water that are in the product, for instance. I mean, in a 100 ml bottle, even if 80% of it water, that's 80 mils of water. That's a fraction of what you would pour down when you're cleaning your teeth or when you're washing your face. So,
however, on the flip side, we really don't want people using face wipes.
No. So the takeaway from this is waterless beauty will be big. Pink's Boutique will have waterless products, as we always have. And if it's appealing to you, please tell us, because we can make it more obvious in our marketing. But we're not going to ham it up or lie about it. And use less water in your skincare routine.
Okay, that's waterless.
Waterless beauty.
Up next,
the K-beauty trend.
I like this one.
Because it sounds like it's a trend about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. But it's unfortunately not. It is about the influence of Korean beauty trends and how they're driving.
Hence the K.
Hence the
K for Kirsty, K for Korea.
So you may or may not know, Korea is a massive skincare market. We've been doing some research for men's skincare. And I read somewhere, and I caveat this, they buy something like 30% of the world's men's skincare. They are massive. I mean, this isn't just skincare, this is makeup. I mean, Korean men wear makeup. It's the whole beauty sector out there.
I also read the other day that after tech, that currently beauty and skincare is their biggest
industry.
Their biggest export industry as well. So the K beauty trend is firstly to do with all of the product innovation that is coming out of Korea. They are leading the way. Lots of things that you're seeing at the moment through social media, magazines, bloggers, from BB creams. That was where it all started. Brightening, whitening creams, because obviously there is still a huge trend in Asia to be whiter.
Face masks
And sheet masks. The whole huge sheet mask revelation that hundreds of Instagram posts of people wearing sheets.
New? No. I'm pretty sure. I'm
I
pretty
grew
sure
up-
I've seen them in our training academies.
I grew up
A
in
long time ago.
a beauty wholesalers. My mum and dad and my grandparents all had beauty wholesale, and I mean, I can remember them from way, way, way back in the day, and then they disappeared for 25 odd years.
No such thing as a new idea, just clever repurposing.
So sheet masks, whitening spots. There's been lots of egg
Oh, snaps, jinx.
egg white, foaming, facial products, are huge. And also then what is crucial about it with all of these products is that the K-beauty regime is a 10-step regime. So you go to bed, pre-bed, you go to the sink, and there are 10 steps to what you do. It is not cleanse, tone, moisturize. It is a 10-step process.
I will send one free product to anyone that can prove to me they have a 10-step beauty routine other than Kirsty. Because we did, interestingly, discuss whether that is the sort of thing that in a time poor, or everyone perceives a time poor environment like the UK, whether or not that would take off. I mean, if it's not intrinsically in your culture, like it obviously is in Korea, are we going to find people? And we have friends of ours that, we're still convincing to use,
to do anything.
Or to do a double cleanse, for instance, and that's adding one step. So adding 7 or 8 steps, is that a push? Is anyone doing it? If you're doing it, tell me. If you can prove it, video it, send us a video, and I will send you a free product.
But definitely within the spa and the beauty market, every spa I do training in, the feedback you get is that when they are speaking to clients, the overall feeling is they do not have enough time, they're rushed, their kids are there, they can't wash their face, they can't be asked, frankly, one or the other. And that even getting them to use a cleanser, a toner, and a moisturizer, the base 3 steps, is a push for a lot of people. So this was our discussion. Is the UK woman / man going to go to 10 steps?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say we should do.
Absolutely. And in our house, I think I'm up to 7. Kirsty is verging on more than 10. But there are other aspects of the K-beauty trends which I think will make it to the UK.
Yeah.
We are ourselves formulating a new product with egg in it. So
yes.
We are not immune to interesting innovations and trends from around the world.
Those of you that have followed our podcast and listened to the beginning story will know that Luke and I have a huge affinity to Asia and have spent a lot of time there. And Pink's Boutique, our first range, our female range, had a fundamental influence of Asia. Like a lot of the smells, a lot of the aromas, a lot of the sensory aspects, and an awful lot of the training.
Yeah, the
and
spa
techniques.
treatments, that whole holistic approach, the touch that, people from that part of the world as therapists tend to have.
So one of the things that I found quite interesting are that people are shocked that the influence is now coming from Asia. And it seems that the rest of the beauty market has always been looking towards America, and America being the leader, whereas we've always looked towards Asia.
That's true.
And so we'll happily keep looking towards Asia. And as Luke said, there's definitely a key egg ingredient en route for one of the new boys products. But the discussion is how far will it impact the sector?
Watch this space is the answer. We're going to spend some time in Asia later this year, hopefully, and so pick up a few more things and a few more tips and ideas. They are just very passionate about it. I mean, that's the key difference when you look at their bloggers, the numbers of people buying stuff.
Historically, though, tracing back to the geishas,
they
have a historical, and sorry, this is the history degree coming out. They have
finally wasn't much good in the quiz the other night.
They have just a historical and long-term desire for absolutely immaculate white porcelain skin.
Yeah.
And camellia, that was why we picked a camellia to go in a lot of the female girls products, which was used by geishas. And it's why the plastic surgery market is so huge there as well, because they really do have this image of perfect porcelain skin. Those of you that go on holiday for the first time to Asia, you'll be quite surprised if you go into normal stores, like beauty stores, like Watson's is the Asian chain of Boots, essentially. It's a
Yeah.
version of Boots. And you'll pick up brands that you will absolutely know, like Nivea. And they have completely different wording and different ingredients, although they look exactly the same as our pots, because they all have brightening and whitening.
Yeah, and
Essentially bleaches to some degree.
something Kirsty has finally given up, which is sunbathing. Again, it's a beauty regime for them. They don't go in the sun. They don't overexpose their skin. We all know it's bad for you. It's bad for extrinsic aging. It's potentially
You'll walk
cancerous.
through the streets of Shanghai, through to the middle of Bangkok, and there will be women literally just carrying umbrellas with them.
And they think we're mad, and they are right. Mad dog and Englishmen are the only people that go out in the sun in the middle of the equator and try and get a suntan. It's just crazy. It's bad for your skin. And so while obviously vitamin D is a requirement for life and health, that permanent tan which people crave in this part of the world is, quite rightly something they avoid over there. Mm-hmm. So, there are definitely things that I would follow in the KU beauty trends.
Daily when we're out there, I will get women come up to me and stroke my hair or arms because of the colouring, followed by a, no, madam, out, sun, get out of the sun.
Absolutely, which is something we will talk about in future podcasts, is behaviours and other ways to improve your skin and your health, not necessarily by just applying products. So I, for one, think some of them will make it here. I think I will be following some of them, and we already have, as far as our new
and I will be championing K-Beauty as Kirsty's 10-step routine, which you are all to follow when I launch it later this year.
Fantastic. Just make sure you leave enough time. It takes about 45 minutes. That's it. That was trend number 2.
And lastly, what we wanted to talk about today in this episode was future-proofing. Can organic go to the mainstream? Can we keep the integrity of organic and scale it up? Yes or no?
We all hope so. I mean, we're sitting in a room with people that are either retailers of natural organic products, producers of natural organic products, people that do PR for natural and organic beauty products. It's obviously something we're all passionate about. But as I said at the beginning, we're also all very honest about it.
Yeah.
And there are some limitations to the way we produce products, to the consistency of the product, that could be limiting.
So the base facts are the organic and natural industry is still growing in the UK, and it has been growing for the last 5 or 6 years. However, it is still no more than 5% of the beauty market, which is pretty tiny still. And this is what's really interesting about the organic world. The mainstream beauty industry think we're all mad because all of the brand owners and essentially people that are competing against each other are really lovely. Yeah. Really open and really good friends, because together we are fighting the other 95%. And that's what makes these meetings so nice.
And really informative and useful, and something that we look forward to every year. But I'm not sure whether it is possible to go beyond a certain point. Obviously, we don't know what that point is. But, our products are handmade. They're hand blended. The ingredients are all tested, from soil to pot by the Soil Association. We put ourselves through very stringent testing for the consumer to have confidence in what we produce.
And how do you do that when you need to make a 100,000 unit run, as L'Oreal would be doing each day?
Yeah, I mean, and Jane Stillen from Veleda was in the right position to discuss this, because they are the biggest of us all, and they are producing in that volume, but they suffer because of it. There are struggles and compromises they have to make.
The first and most obvious problem that organic has on very large scale is crop failure.
Yeah.
We've encountered this once in the last few years. There was a massive jojoba crisis. And if you really are using just the natural ingredient and the natural ingredient doesn't grow that year, and there's not enough of it,
or it's not to the quality that is usable in a product,
then what do? You can't just take it out. Your EU cosmetic regulations that you go under, everything about the labelling of your bottle, your box, you can't just remove it and go, oh, well, the next few months we won't have jojoba. So you are stuck. And what will obviously tend to happen is the small amount of that ingredient that does exist, the prices will go sky high, but you can't pass that margin issue on to a client.
No, because it's fluctuating, and then that makes the viability of your business less competitive than someone that's using synthetic products and ingredients that are just churned out by the thousands of tons from the petrochemical industry.
And I think as a user at home of organic and natural skincare, that's a really interesting thing to think about. I just don't think people think of it like that. You've got to think about the farmer, field, growing, what's happening. So the first scaling issue potentially and the scaling risk we have is the actual nature of the crops.
For us personally, it's also the way it's made. That personal hand-blended touch is something that we...
Now, this is something that you could have an organic range and not have this issue.
Absolutely.
This is something that we have done, and it gives us some of those amazing balm textures, that like light souffle.
Very difficult to replicate with machinery.
Really near impossible.
Yep.
And they also have a real issue. The temperature of which you pour them out and they land in the jar is crucial. So if you are making it in a 10 kilogram vat, you pour it all out, it hits the jar, it's perfect. You increase that to 25 kilogram, the first 3/4 is okay, the last bit isn't quite the right temperature. And it goes on. You go to 50 kgs, 100 kgs, it stops pouring as you need it to pour.
We often describe producing organic skincare as like cooking, and it's not dissimilar to
It's like
trying to produce
a chocolate souffle.
Or trying to produce home cooked food en masse. By definition, it doesn't really then become home cooked. It's produced in an industrial scale kitchen, and you lose lots of the elements that made it what it was originally.
And so we talk about this a lot because our balm cleansers particularly are one of our lead products. And if anything was going to make you fall in love with Pink's Boutique, it would be those. If I could take a product around the globe and show people, it would be that. However, making 200,000 units of them in one go would be fairly taxing, to the point where you have to question whether you would.
And whether you can charge enough to make it worthwhile, because at the end of the day, it's a business. We have to produce products at a margin that can allow us to distribute it around the world. If that's the way natural and organic skincare is going, can that be done? And can you basically charge a price that the consumer understands that, that's why, and that's what it takes to maintain the quality of production?
And then you have a second issue with said balm product if you are taking it around the world.
The third of our...
temperature. Anything that is balm will melt when it goes over about 23, 24 degrees. So international shipping and logistics becomes quite interesting as well.
Which does bring us full circle back to Waterless Beauty, which, while products with water in and preservatives have their issues if you're not conscious of the preservative you're using or the amount of water, there is the flip side, which is it lasts better in certain environments. And in order, as Kirsty said, to distribute and have it on shelf all over the world, which is what you would need to be able to do in order to expand natural organic beyond where it currently is, you do have to start to think about packaging, about its sustainability, about whether or not the product will actually last.
And for those of you who are listening who are either early on in starting your own brand, your own organic skincare brand, or are wanting to do it, this is where it gets quite tricky, and I have to say quite emotive for me, is that we started with a list of ideals and made the perfect product and made the product how we wanted it to be used in the bathroom. And you are, as we get bigger, potentially looking at a situation where to supply the rest of the world, we could have to, to be fair, we would have to make the decision to change the integrity of those products.
Or double the price.
Yeah, and is that going to work?
Big
Please.
pause because we don't know.
because we don't know the answer. And to be honest, this literally is a $64 million question in our house. And we discussed it, and it was quite refreshing to hear people with other brands discuss the same issues. But I think it is particularly taxing to Pink's Boutique because of the handmade and the level of barn bases that we have within it.
And how difficult it is to replicate on scale and en masse. But that's not us giving up. That's just us being honest and telling you the challenges that we face. But ultimately, we've had a really good evening. We've talked about Waterless Beauty.
K-Beauty.
And whether or not organic and natural skincare can be future-proof to take on the rest of the world. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast. As ever, comments, feedback, any questions, please get hold of us. You can contact us by mail at hello@pinksboutique.com. You can go on our website, all of our social media channels at pinksboutique1 for Instagram, at pinksboutique for Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, anyone that can video or prove that they have a 10-step K-beauty routine gets a free product from myself. I look forward to seeing if anyone can find the time to video and more or less do it every night.